Hello, everybody. How is it going today? Hope it's going good. It has been quite a week. Has been. It's a crazy week this week. It was my birthday on Friday. I'm now 41 years old. Oh, another trip around the sun. Indeed. I got this shirt that says, "Awesome like my daughter." Yeah, I have two daughters. I showed my youngest daughter, and her first response was, "What about the other one?" And implying that she's the awesome one. But, fine. All right. Well, how are you guys? I hope you're doing good. I hope the weather is not too crazy. I know the weather here has been just nutty. We were at 85 2 days ago, and now it's almost freezing outside. So, man, it is getting strange. It's supposed to be a little bit colder here in the next couple of days. I'm sure everything will be freezing. And so we'll see how it goes. All right. For those who may be watching this for the first time, what I want to do is explain a little bit. My name is Patrick Stewart, and each week we work through 365 Tao by Deng Ming-Dao. We take it one chapter at a time. We usually do about 4 or 5 chapters per stream. I am the founder and chief editor of the Taoist Online, which is a medium.com publication. We publish spiritual, religious, and philosophical articles every single day. Some of them are free. Some of them are paywalled by the author. Medium offers a $5 a month subscription where you get access to all the articles, and that money goes towards the writers. And some of it goes to Medium, of course. But a lot of it actually does go to the writers, so it's super cool. So Taoism, if you don't know, is a ancient Chinese religious and philosophical tradition. It was started by a legendary man named Lao Tzu, who, according to legend, was a librarian in the palace and decided when he was old, he was done with society and he wanted to go live his life out alone. So he, on the way out of the kingdom, he was stopped by a border guard who asked him to write down any words of wisdom he had. And so he did. And what he wrote out was the Tao Te Ching, or was later called the Tao Te Ching. And so here we are, 2,500 years later. Now it's us. So this book, 365 Tao, which you also see on the side of your screen, takes Taoist lessons and applies them to everyday life, because obviously this book, ancient Chinese culture, very different from our modern Western culture, but still applicable, surprisingly applicable. So here we go. We're on chapter 37 this week. So let's go ahead and begin. This chapter is called Discord. When birds fly too high, they sing out of tune. There are times when we feel out of harmony with our surroundings. Matters do not get in our way, and we feel confused and disoriented. Sometimes these moments will last a day. Sometimes they may last for weeks. When we feel like this, we are not integrated with the Tao, or as it is sometimes metaphorically said, Tao has flowed elsewhere. Being constantly in touch with Tao is an ideal. There will be times of misfortune and discord from external sources. We can also fall out of synchronization with Tao, though our lives are our own follies, as when we act without complete consideration. Whenever this happens, we are like the birds singing out of tune. We are mirrored in discord. If we keep our patience, we will usually ride out these times. We should take action and break the stagnation if an opportunity presents itself. Whether it is waiting or acting, we should always try to bring a situation back into balance so that we can rejoin Tao. Whenever we find ourselves linked again, we will feel relieved. We are back on track, back on target, but we should learn from each time that we lose Tao. Sometimes this is enough to prevent reoccurrences, and sometimes it is enough to buoy our hopes through future lean times. Once we know Tao, we will recognize it again and again. We will not lose faith, even in times of discord. All right. So I get asked a lot, whether you can go against Tao, right? If Tao is everything, which it is, then how can you not, how can anything you do, not be Tao? And the answer to that is you probably have a misconception of how Tao works. One of the first thing in the Tao Te Ching is that you can't really define what Tao is, but we can see its manifestations. We can see the results of Tao throughout all things. Think of Tao as a river, and the river flows in one direction. And if you're swimming in this river, you have a couple of choices. You can choose to swim with the current, or you can choose to swim against the current, or maybe to the side, right? You can go any way you want to. But one way is easier, less painful, less struggle than the other. That's not to say you can't do it. It's not to say you don't have free will, you don't have the ability to make choices, because you do. But in this chapter, discord would be swimming against the flow of the river. And sometimes you wind up flowing against the river and you don't even know it. And that's natural. It's okay. It's going to happen. We accept those parts of our lives. Sometimes there's a bend in that river and you find yourself just kind of treading water. And that's okay. It's going to happen. I teach my son this all the time. People are going to be mean. People will hurt you. You'll be frustrated and angry. And it's just a natural part of it. You're gonna find yourself in this discord. But if you calm yourself, if you accept the situations, you can learn to release those feelings. You can turn yourself back towards that flow and continue. Because you're going to continue anyway. But like I said, are you going to continue down that path of least resistance and least struggle? Or are you going to continue to fight this current? The choice is yours. But in Taoism, we do believe that you can live your life down this path of the current, and kind of flowing always with this current, like this chapter says, is an idea, right? It's an ideal state of being. Can you reach that? If you can, please let me know. Please teach me your ways. Because I'd love to know. But for the rest of us, maybe we'll just do the best we can. All right. Chapter 38, Adapting. Heaven embraces the horizon, no matter how jagged the profile. The sky faithfully conforms. Wherever you are, the sky constantly meets the horizon. It conforms absolutely with the Earth's surface. Changes in the Earth or sky do not affect this perfect adaptation. There might be clouds, it might be night, it might be mountains or trees or even buildings on the horizon, but the relationship remains. No matter what circumstances life may present, we must adapt exactly, whether we think the situation is good or bad. Resistance is useless. Instead, we should concentrate on perceiving whatever circumstances surround us. For example, if one is in a leadership situation, one must adapt one's vision to that of the group. The successful leader articulates and brings consensus to the group. Being flexible and constantly adjusting to the times is one of the secrets of Tao. We often think of the landscape as being in the foreground and the sky as the background. It is because the sky is always in the background that it can meet the outline of the foreground perfectly. If we emulate this feature of being in the background, we too can find perfect conformity with life. Such adaptation is not passivity, however, it is coordinates. It is because the sky is in the background that it is, in fact, supreme. So too with ourselves. If we know how to adapt, we end up being superior. Oh man, this is interesting. Let's see here. So let's take, I know it's hidden, but in this picture, in this cover, there's a foreground, which is the trees, and then a background, which is the sky. So in this chapter, it talks about adaptation, and the example it uses is that the sky always perfectly matches, outlines the foreground. So no matter what's in the foreground, it can be buildings, it can be mountains, it can be trees, it can be whatever you want. But that background is always going to perfectly align with the foreground. It's its nature. It has to match. It's the only thing it can do. So when we look at leadership, that's how we should be leading. And there are lots of different kinds of leadership. There's leadership in your job, leadership in your family, leadership around with your friends, in your community. So in my life, I'm a manager of a team. I'm also a father of 3 and a husband. So there's lots of opportunity there for leadership. In this chapter, what it explains is that as a leader, you should conform to the needs or the desires of your group. Think of it as saying, from the ground up, right? From the bottom to the top. Like, don't lead from the top down. Leading by the top down means that I'm your manager and I tell you what to do all the time. In the West, we call it micromanaging. Don't do this, always do this, don't do this. I don't know if you've ever been in a job like that, but it's awful, right? It's really, really painful to be that person who's just constantly being put down. If you lead from the bottom up, your job is to sit and listen and to take in information and then make those calls, right? And if you do it well, the team may feel like you're not doing anything at all, right? And that's how you want to lead according to the Taoist teaching. In a family situation, it gets a little bit more tricky because children are not adults. They don't have the life experience to make a lot of those decisions. So you need to be a little bit more upfront and honest and keep situations away that maybe are not appropriate from them, or maybe they won't understand because they don't have those experiences. But again, it's important to allow your kids to learn their own lessons to some degree, right? It's okay for them to get hurt. I remember I have an old family friend who had a kid many years ago, and the kid was 2 or 3, and there was a candle sitting on the table. And the kid, being 2 and not knowing fire is hot, slowly began to reach for the flame. And we said, "Hey, aren't you going to stop your kid from touching that candle?" And he was like, "No, they'll figure it out." Of course, the kid got too hot and ow. And he was like, "Yep, nope, see, he's not going to do it again. Now he won't. Now he'll know fire is hot. But if I constantly tell him no, he'll constantly go back and be curious on why this amazing dancing light can't be touched." And he didn't hurt. He didn't knock it over or anything crazy like that. But, small amounts of life lessons are important to learn by yourself, right? It's important to let those kids experience things, even if you know they're going to get hurt, right? So yeah, leadership in the family is tough, but it's always something new, right? We're always adapting. We're always learning. Nobody's ever perfect. Just like the sky always changes to meet the foreground, that's us. We always have to be adapting and changing. And that's one of the reasons Taoism has been around for so long, is because it allows for this adaptation. It allows for you to naturally bend and move to this whirlwind of life that we have to go through. Nani says, "That's such an interesting story. Kids learn with their mistakes. We should be more like a child." Ah, yes. Indeed. I'm sure there is a chapter on being childlike. That is 100% in the Dai De Jing, is returning to that childlike mind. If I tried to open that up, we'd never make it to the next chapter. But that's there. You're correct. You're absolutely right. Good job, Nani. By the way, everyone, Nani is the community manager here at the Taoist Online. She ran the writing contest that just ended this month. So shout out to Nani. All right. Chapter 39. Worry. Worry is an addiction that interferes with compassion. Worry is a problem that seems to be rampant. Perhaps it is due to the nature of our overly advanced civilization. Perhaps it is a measure of our own spiritual degeneracy. Whatever the source, it is clear that worry is not useful. It is a cancer of the emotions, concern gone compulsive. It eats away at body and mind. Yet, it does no good to say, "Don't think about it." You'll only worry more. It is far better to keep walking your path, changing what you can. The rest must be dissolved in compassion. In this world of infants with immune deficiencies, racial injustice, economic imbalance, personal violence, and international conflict, it is impossible to address everyone's concerns. Taking care of yourself and doing something good for those whom you meet is enough. That is compassion. And we must exercise it even in the face of overwhelming odds. Whenever you meet a problem, help if it is in your power to do so. After you have acted, withdraw and be unconcerned about it. Walk on without ever mentioning it to anybody. Then there is no worry because there has been action. Oh boy. All right. I can't remember where I heard it. It may have been my teacher. But someone told me once that worrying about the past is called regret, and worrying about the future is anxiety. And by focusing on now, on today, you relieve yourself of both regret and anxiety. Here, it just calls them both worry. And it talks a lot about how to act to avoid such emotions. For example, I'm a writer on Medium, and Medium has a special program called the Boost Pilot Program. There's about 100 of us in there, and it is very drama-filled sometimes. There's lots of drama in that group sometimes, and I run the community for it. I gathered a bunch of the people in the nomination group, about half of everyone in it, and I run a Slack channel for them all. And it's painful sometimes, and we struggle a lot to how it should be run and how things should have happened and can happen, and all that worrying from the outside weighs on you emotionally. Like, it physically will stop you from doing what you need to get done that day. And here it teaches us to respond to things as they arise, but then to step away and don't talk about it again. You ever heard of the 3 C's? Like the 3 C's you're not supposed to do? Complain. Oh shoot, I shouldn't have mentioned it if I don't remember it. Let's Google it. You're not supposed to do. I can't find it. That's all right. But yeah, don't complain, right? I think complaining makes you worry more, right? Like if something happens and you deal with it, and then you just go to someone else and you just complain about it, and you go to someone else and you complain about it, you keep yourself in that emotional place. Like, you keep that anger going. You kind of dwell on these negative emotions, and you don't allow yourself to release, right? You don't allow yourself to move on. You hold grudges, right? I mean, thinking about things in the past, like that regret, will eat at you spiritually, it will eat at you emotionally, and you'll never move on. You'll always say, well, you did this, and so now I have to do this, right? This is your fault in the past, even though you can't change anything, right? You're just going to constantly beat this person up emotionally forever. I mean, no matter what they did, right? Like, that's that Christian idea of forgiveness, right? It's the same place, right? You have to stop worrying about what happened and let it go. I mean, in the Taoist Online Discord channel server, we have a channel specifically called Let It Go. And it's just for people to get those things off their chests and to express themselves and to have that moment and that outlet, and then let us continue. The same thing goes about the future. The future isn't here yet. So why worry about the things you don't know are going to go that way, right? I mean, if I worried about everything that could happen to me in the future, I'd never do anything ever. Like I'd just sit here in my house all day long, and I wouldn't go anywhere, and I wouldn't go out, and I wouldn't go to dinner because maybe I'm going to get in a car wreck, or maybe in America, maybe there's going to be a mass shooting, which seems to happen all the time. It may just happen last week, right? In Maine, in some nobody town, in like the most calm, chill state in the nation. But if I worried about that, it would destroy me. So I have to continue to lead my life and accept things for what they are right now. And if I see something I can help, if I see something I can speak into, I will speak into it, and then let that go. And that's how I lead. That's how I choose to be a leader at my job and in my family and in my personal life. Is I try to affect the things I can. And when I've said all I can say, we move on. A couple of chats coming through. Nani says, thanks for the shout out, of course. The hardest thing is to step away and never talk about it again. Yes. Oh, it's so hard. I don't know why. I don't know if it's like a Western civilization thing. Like, are we just trained to complain? Like, is it natural? I don't know what causes that, but yeah, we're a gossiper for sure. If you're not supposed to complain, I am in deep trouble. I know. Look, Nani, you and I have had lots of conversations in that Discord editor channel where I just rant. And yeah, I try not to, but man, sometimes you just got to get it off your chest, right? Sometimes you just got to. And that's okay, right? Everyone needs to vent sometimes. These are ideal states, right? Nobody's perfect, right? We're not supposed to be perfect. We're not supposed to live up to anyone's ideal of perfection. Let me say it that way, because we are exactly the way nature intended us to be. And that in and of itself is perfection. But yeah. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Thank you, Pixel. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Yep, there they are. Criticize, condemn, and complain. Oh yeah, and if you're a parent, seems like all you get sometimes, especially from your kids. It's all they want to do. They don't like dinner, complaining. I hate this dinner, condemning. Yeah, criticizing. This dinner sucks. Right? Yeah. Nani says, for me, complaining is like release, though. If I complain and I let go, that's over. That's true. So I guess there's a fine line between, kind of that constantly complaining. Like, did you ever work with someone, they just constantly complain all the time? Like they're like a negative Nancy, and they just constantly bring you down, and like their drama-filled life, like you just don't want to deal with it anymore. I think that's what the lesson is getting to. I don't think it means, don't ever vent. And, don't rely on your friends when you need them. But, once you've gotten the advice that you were asking for, then it's time to step away. Nani says, I love this. We are exactly the way nature intended us to be. Yeah. So there's a great example. We're never going to make it to the next chapter, but there's a great example in Zhuangzi, which I don't have a copy around. So the second book outside of the Tao Te Ching that people usually go to is called Zhuangzi. There's several English translations around, but he tells a story, Mr. Zhuangzi does, about a tree that is really like gnarly. Like it grew all sideways, and it's got a bunch of knots in its, in the trunk and its branches. And people are walking down the street and they see this tree and they're like, ugh, like what a terrible, ugly tree. Like, we can't make a chair out of it. we can't make a boat out of it because of all these knots, and we can't make pottery out. We can't make tools out of it because the grains are all weird, and it's just this worthless tree that we can't do anything with. And another guy is like, well, that's because you see things as you want them to be. You don't see things as they are, right? Like, I can sit under that tree and enjoy its shade. I can sit on the knot and have it be a chair. And, I can listen to the birds who are inside of those gnarly branches and enjoy the soft ruffle of its leaves blowing in the wind, right? That tree is exactly how it grew. And who's to say that tree did not grow exactly the way it needed to? Is a sunflower not doing what it's supposed to by growing? It's a sunflower. How is that wrong? A sunflower can only be a sunflower. A tree can only be a tree. And we can only be who we are. That's not to say we can't have goals or strive for things. But at some point, we just are who we are. And that's exactly how we are. Right? Try not to tell yourself that that's how you should be. Right? I got caught saying that to my teacher the other week. And he was like, oh, no. Don't say that, right? Like, don't have expectations on how you should be. Just be the way you are and look at your goals. And it's okay to have goals. It's totally fine. And you need to work towards them. But be okay. Be okay. You're okay. You're okay just the way it is. Pixel says, we see our memories, expectations, and preconceived notions sometimes. Yes, we do. Yes. And it's very human. Our brains have developed to be this way over millions of years. And rightfully so. It's given us language. It's given us the ability to create electricity, or to harness electricity, build lights and homes and cars and all these wonderful things. But it has given us the ability to worry and condemn and concern ourselves with things that we can't control. And there's that amazing duality of it all. Whether, if we develop the ability to be happy, we develop the ability to be not happy. If we develop the ability to think and plan for the future, we develop the ability to have anxiety about that future. I do not have a copy, but if you look at the lower corner here on your screen, the yin yang, right? The duality of it all, always in motion. One over the other, over the other, over the other. However, you'll see that little dot. The white dot inside the black and the black dot inside the white. The yin always a little bit inside the yang, and the yang always a little bit inside the yin. Never one without the other. So you're going to be okay. Just the way you are. All right. We got to move on. Chapter 40. Subconscious. Any Sigmund Freud fans here? Heaven and hell are subconscious. Oh boy. That's so true, isn't it? I mean, just right there. Isn't your subconscious just like the worst thing in the world sometimes? Or the best thing? Who knows? Meditation opens seldom glimpsed areas of our subconscious. When that happens, extraordinary thoughts and awareness come to us with seeming spontaneity. We realize truths that were opaque and to us before. We perceive events that were previously too distant. But no one ever became superhuman because of meditation. They only opened their own latent potential. Everything is locked inside of us and need only be opened. That is why it is said that heaven is within us. In the same way, the pains and the struggles of the past sometimes haunt us with astounding vehemence. Problems and conflicts are difficult to exorcise. Although we may practice spirituality and move on to new endeavors and relationships, past hurts still come back in our memories and dreams. These are not demons from another world, nor are they karmic manifestations of previous lives. They are scars in our subconscious. No matter how diligently we try to make progress, there are still pains that cause us day after day, curse us day after day. This is why it is said that hell is within us. We ourselves are the battleground for good and evil. There is no need to look beyond our world. Everything to be understood is within us. All that must be transcended, the pains and scars of the past, is within us. All the power of transcendence is also within us. Tap into it, and you tap into the divine itself. Think about that one for a second. Just take a moment. So meditation, let's start there. When I was growing up, you'd see people meditate on TV or, in movies especially, or maybe you walk by a yoga class or an exercise class, and they're always like sitting crisscross applesauce for any parents out there. And they got their hands on their legs, and they're sitting in the lotus position, or maybe like a half lotus. And and you're like, I can't even bend that way. Like, how am I supposed to meditate if my legs don't bend? Right? Like, oh my gosh, like I'm never going to figure this out. Like I quote, can't do this. So you get turned off of meditation. And you're like, man, if I could just meditate, I could unlock this amazing power. I'd be the superhero. I can be calm and like a monk all the time. But I guess since I can't meditate, then I guess I'm never going to get this way. That is incorrect way of thinking about meditation. If we look at it from a more of a Taoist viewpoint, meditation can be anything. It can be anything. My favorite form of meditation is doing the dishes. I figured that out a couple of years ago when my tinnitus began. Tinnitus is constant ear ringing. And that running water sound would help drown out a lot of the ringing. And then the activity of scrubbing would help my mind to focus on something, right? Anything other than thinking about what's going on inside my head. That is meditation. That is exactly what meditation is, right? It's supposed to be. Supposed to be. Going for a walk. Lots of people love going for walks. Helps them clear their mind, helps them think. Steve Jobs, founder of Apple, used to love walking, according to his book. And that's how he made all of his bright ideas, was by walking and being in nature and walking around the campus and walking around his home. So meditation doesn't need to be confined to this one act, right? And when you discover that, when you discover what meditation is for you, then you have unlocked a great, amazing gift to yourself, right? In this chapter, it talks about we are a battleground, right? Our subconscious is constantly in battle, essentially with itself, right? You have negative thoughts and you have positive thoughts, happy thoughts, angry thoughts. And it's just doing this all the time, right? You have dreams and they fill you with sadness or anxiety, and you wake up and you have to deal with this day. Or, maybe you have happy dreams, right? And you feel amazing and you wake up and then you're like, oh crap, I have all this stuff to do. I got to wake up the kids and get dressed and do work and, take all these people this place and go do this chore and run these errands. And it drains on you. Like your subconscious is constantly battling your own reality. And that's okay, right? That's the goal of meditation, right? Meditation is your ability to unlock thoughts that you didn't know you had. It's the connection into your subconscious. It's the bridge from your conscious mind into your unconscious mind by trying to filter everything else out around you. That's meditation. At least that's what this book explains meditation as. That's how I understand meditation. So everything that's within you can be understood, right? It doesn't have to be a mystery, but it takes practice and dedication to get there. And there's always more to learn about yourself. There's always something that you're going to not know, right? Because everything around you changes, you change, and you're never going to reach this. Depends on your beliefs, right? But I believe that you're never going to reach this kind of perfect state, because that definition of perfection is a human-made definition. And as we have learned earlier, the word human, the definition of human is not me. Like, I am not your definition of a person. I am me. And you are not that definition. You are you. How can we say that this definition matches everything you are and everything I am, and we are very different people? We can't. So when we look at meditation, and it's the goals that I have for my meditative practice, it's not to reach some sort of nirvana state. It's to connect myself with my subconscious thoughts and discover things about myself. All right, comments. Nani says, I never saw anyone meditating while growing up. It wasn't a thing at all. If ever, it was an old guy on a movie. Yeah, right? Oh, like The Karate Kid. Yeah, I guess that was one of my first, kind of introductions, I guess, that I remember. I was a young kid and I saw that. And Mr. Miyagi, he would sit there and do the catch the flies, right? Now meditation is such an essential part of my life, and it happens many different ways. I'm reading a lovely book with tips for different types of meditation. Yeah, I don't know why we always think that meditation is like this one form, I guess it's just in the media, right? Just that stereotype that we just keep getting force-fed over and over and over again. But as soon as you talk to someone who actually meditates, it's surprising how fast you'll discover that meditation can be anything you want, right? Anything it needs to be. Nani says the book is called The Little Book of Mindfulness. Yeah, cool. Who is behind you? This is a picture of my daughter when she was 1. Now she's 15. My favorite type of meditation is coloring. Yeah, cool. It's so much healing, and love how you make it an accessible. You make it an accessible things we can do in our everyday. Yeah, of course. Yeah, meditation is all around you. Attempts to meditate, opportunities to meditate, I should say, are everywhere. They're absolutely everywhere. You just takes some practice. It just takes some dedication and some patience to really put yourself in touch with your own thoughts. Especially if you're the type of person, maybe you're a little ADHD, right? And your mind is just constantly running full speed. You'll get a lot out of meditation for sure. Like I do. I love meditating because it gives me the opportunity to filter out everything and just be alone with my thoughts and work through them, right? However long it takes. I'd recommend about 20 minutes if you're wondering. All right, one more, and then we're going to move on. Or then that'll be it for the day. Footsteps in the sand, quickly washed away. The seashore mind. This is called resolution. Going to the beach means walking in fresh air, listening to the sound of waves, feeling the grit of sand beneath our feet. The narrow ribbon between land and ocean is a perfect place to understand the mind of wisdom. As there is a dynamic balance between sand and water, so too is there a dynamic equilibrium between the present and active sides of our minds. Just as the sand is constantly being washed, so too should we keep our minds free of lingering impressions. We often let thoughts, regrets, and doubts from past activities carry over into the present. This leads us to conflict. Instead of allowing this to happen, we should act without leaving consequences. This requires great thoroughness. Such completeness is challenging, but to succeed is to live perfectly. By resolving the problems of each day to our utmost satisfaction, we attain the sublime purity of a beach constantly washed by the waves. Water. My favorite example of Tao, water. Okay, you guys ever gone to the beach? I have. I don't know how far away you guys live to the beach. I live from a beach, but I live about 8 hours from the Gulf of Mexico. If we're driving. And one of the interesting things about the beach is the tide. That tide, which is caused by the gravitational force of the moon going around the earth, pulls the water line in. And then as the moon moves and as the earth moves, that water line comes out. So if there's stuff on the beach, a lot of times that wave will come in and then pull everything back out into the ocean. And you wind up with a cleaner beach. So too is our minds. Our minds get tons of trash, but we can kind of wash that away, right? And that's the metaphor going on in this chapter. That balance between how much sand is there and how much water is there, right? The water comes in, pulls away the sand. Sand builds back up. The water comes back in, drops some stuff off, takes some things away, constantly in motion, constantly churning out new and old, old and new, right? Just as the yin yang, there it is. Just as the yin yang turns, always changing, always moving. Here, that last paragraph, I find really, really great. We often let thoughts, regrets, and doubts from past activities carry over into the present, right? Regrets. Oh man, I wish this had happened. I wish this hadn't happened. I wish I could have done this. I should have done this. And that carries over into your present, right? That wave rolls in and drops off all that crap on you again and again and again. You just worry and you're sad and you can't let go, right? You've got to let that wave release back out into the ocean. And when it does, you'll find yourself with a new beach, with a new mindset. It's not going to look the same. It's not going to be the same, right? Like the beach is constantly changing shape and form. It's never the same groups of sand, right? It's always new. It's always different. It's always moving. So you can't regret not being the same person anymore. When something happens to you, it leaves those scars on you. It changes you, and it's okay. That change is okay. If I lost my arm, right, I'd be sad. I'd be horribly sad. But no amount of regret is going to make my arm come back, right? It's never going to be the same. And coming to grips with that loss, with that pain, allows you to move on. It's not that you don't still wish you had an arm, right? I think I'd always wish I still had that arm, but you can't let it kill you from the inside out. You have to let that wave move, because it will. Whether you fight it or you don't fight it, the world spins. It will move. Everyone will move on. And you can either move on with it or you can fight it. You can, to go back to our original metaphor from the beginning of the stream today, you can either swim against that river current or you can swim with it. But either way, that river is moving and there's no way to stop that river, right? That water is always in motion. And if you want to struggle and fight that current all the time, every day, fine, that's your choice, right? You can choose to fight that current. But man, if you just relax and let that current move you and float on your back for a while, you're going to go way farther with way less struggle and you'll be happier. That's what I believe. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. I appreciate you guys coming. We had a lot more views today, so that's cool. I think I'm going to keep this time frame. It's nicer. My kids aren't awake yet, so it's nice to maybe not have them running back and forth in the background. Well, I'm going to go get more coffee. I'm going to enjoy my day. It's a freezy, rainy day here in North Texas. So wherever you are, I hope you enjoy your day. Thank you so much. I will see you guys next week. Goodbye.